Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another episode, another show of Mortgage Financing and Home Buyer Ready. My name is Jackie Abrams, and I'm with Sampson Properties.
And I'm Barbara Grant, and I'm with Cardinal Financial.
And we are here today to give you as much information as we can in this 1 hour about mortgage financing and being home buyer ready.
Yes.
And so, in addition to that, we'd like to let you know that we have two email addresses that are very important to know. One is home buying audience. That one, you will let us know if you would like to be in a person, a live audience in our show. The other is home buying questions at gmail.com. They're both gmail.com.
They're both
I forgot to say
gmail.com.
that part,
Yes.
didn't I? And so you would send in any questions that you may have. Now, if you were with us last week, we discussed the real estate process and everything you ever want to know about real estate process. I guess we did that for several sessions in a row, didn't we?
Very good. Very good sessions, too. Yes.
And this week we are going to talk about the mortgage process.
Yes, we're going to talk about the mortgage processing. So when we come back, we'll head right into that. Stay tuned.
Hello, my name is Tania McQueen. I'm the Residential Services Manager for Prestige Community Resources.
What our new facilities are respite centers. We're opening 2 in the city right now. Hopefully we'll expand to more. But respite centers are a place where people can come and get a little additional support with their mental health. Our one on Eastern Avenue is for men, and our one on Minnesota Avenue is for women. Our facilities are for all DC residents, especially focusing in on those in Wards 7 and 8. So they're really nice, and I'm excited for consumers to actually see them. What are the services that we're going to provide? Therapy, case management, medication management, all provided by professional staff, a licensed nurse practitioner, psychiatrists, sociologists, social workers, and then our paraprofessionals, our case managers. It's just a place where you can come and get the support that you need to work on your personal goals, as well as to get your mental health straight. Simple, single adult, 18 years of age or older, a DC resident. You need to have insurance, but if you don't have it, it's okay. Still come, we'll work on getting you insurance. Have to have a negative COVID test, a negative TB test, and be willing to work on your mental health. For more information about respite services, you can contact us at 202-796-5000 or hit us up on our website at www.prestigecommunityresources.org.
And welcome back to Mortgage Financing and Home Buyer Ready. And as Jackie told you earlier, last week we had a wonderful, well, the last 3 weeks, we had a wonderful show on the real estate process.
Yes.
And now we're going to head into the mortgage process and everything you need to know getting ready for the mortgage process. So we're going to go ahead and start that out.
Okay.
Okay? Is that good?
Alrighty.
So initially, I wanted to talk about the pre-approval process, but we did that on another show. We talked about the pre-approval process. So I'm not going to delve too much into that, but the pre-approval process is when Jackie sends you over to me to get pre-approved prior to you actually going out and looking for a home, and you come to me, and I will collect some certain documentation, and I will just see if you are home buyer ready or not. So in that pre-approval process, there's some steps that are normally taken to get you home buyer ready or to see if you're home buyer ready. So what we would do is I would collect some documentation. And some of that documentation would be like with your income, maybe
right.
your W-2, your
Yes.
pay stubs, assets you may have, maybe your 401k statement if you've told Jackie or myself that you were going to use that to pay some of the closing costs.
Any student loan?
Any student loan information, because I definitely need that,
Yes,
right? I
definitely.
need the student loan information. Even though I'll see it on your credit report, I need to know what's going on with your student loan. And that was good, Jackie,
Yes.
that you brought that up,
And
because
Barbara does an excellent job with that. I said that before when we talked about
Yes.
this, but she is excellent with figuring out what's going on with student loans and making that fit into wherever you need to be
where
to
you
be able
need to
to
be.
purchase your home.
Right, because a lot of people have gotten turned down in the past because they have student loan debt and they have monthly payments. Because what you don't know, even if they're deferred, we still have to include that payment in your debt, even if you have it deferred. And a lot of times that's the first thing people will say to me.
That's right.
Well, yeah, I got student loans, but they're deferred till next year. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. I'm going to need to know what that full amortized payment is to include that in your debt. But we'll talk about that a little later,
Okay.
because there's some ways around that. Am I right, Jackie?
And she knows exactly what they are.
There's some ways that we can handle that
Yes.
to make sure that that is either not included in your debt or very little included in your debt. So I'll ask you about the student loans if you have any. I'll also ask you things like, child support, whether you're getting child support or whether you're paying child support. And that's very important too, because if it's not showing up for those that pay child support, if it is not showing up on your payroll every week, trust me, they find it. If it is a court order that you pay child support and they may or may not be taking it out of your pay stub, trust me, the searches that the underwriters do in certain government systems, and I won't get into all of those systems, they find all this information. So I'll look at your pay stubs and kind of ask, are you paying child support? And if I see the child support, yes, we include that in your debt. Now, if you're somebody getting child support, that's a good thing too, because as long as you're getting it for 3 years, continuance of 3 years, I can include that. And the other good thing about that too,
What's that?
people that use disability income, child support income, pension income, guess what?
What's that?
We get to raise that up a little
All right,
to even
now.
help you. So we get to raise that up so that we can say that you have more income in order to purchase a home. So a lot of people don't know that too.
That's very good information.
Yes.
Very good.
Yes. So at the beginning, I will collect all of these documentations, and I will collect things like your ID, your social security card or your social security number. And what I do with that, I take that information and I analyze those initial docs. And this is even before I've even pulled your credit. And by the way, I've already had a conversation with you about your credit to see if you know where your credit is. And I
Yes.
think we talked about that
That's right, we
during the
did,
credit.
we
So we're
did.
not going to go backwards. We're going to continue to go forward, right?
And one thing that I like, Barbara,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm sure the audiences can hear this, is that you're saying everything you do. So it's not this automated,
Yes.
you're talking to them on the phone.
Yes.
You reach out to them, they reach out to you. You're a live
Yes.
person talking to them. Everything is not electronic, it's not going through
Yes.
email. And Barbara is very hands on.
Yes.
And for people who need that or want that, Barbara is your person.
Well, thank you,
For
Jackie.
sure,
They plugged
for
me in there, right
sure.
there. I'm your person. Love it, love it, love it. But Jackie knows we both love that. We love being very hands on.
That's right.
And one thing we really, really love, we want to know that when Jackie is taking you out to look for a house, we want to know that it's going to be approved.
Yes.
That's the number one thing
Yes.
that we want to know, right? So that's why I scrutinize your documents. Now, does everything come out in the pre-approval process? No. So I'm giving you sunny day scenarios if everything is everything. And sometimes, people tend, until they get to know me, there's certain things that they refrain from telling me, even though I may say, whatever it is you're not telling me, you got to tell me, because if you don't tell me, I can't help you.
That's right.
I don't know how to help you. So until people get used to me, there's some little things or little caveats that they may leave out. But when I'm talking to you, I don't know what it is, Jackie, but when I'm talking to people
Right.
about this or about their finances, I can kind of tell and hear when something is not being told to me. And I just wait, and I wait,
Right,
and I wait,
right,
and then I go,
right.
all right, let me just ask. So I really just pull it out of you, But if you come to me up front with everything, well, I have this situation, I had this, I had that, because I'm telling you, underwriters find everything.
The trusty underwriters,
they find everything. Trust me. So if you're not giving me what you think I should know, but you don't want me to know up front, we'll get down into the process, and I'll tell you where this can become a little
problematic. Maybe
it could become problematic, or it could become some people, they get a little testy. Well, why do you need this? Why do you need that?
Yes,
well, because you haven't given it to me. You haven't told me. But we know you have it. We know we know this.
Right.
Why are you still asking for this? Well, because you didn't give it to me up front. So I like to tell people up front, whatever it is that you think I need to know as your finance or your mortgage person, you need to give that to me up front so that I can help you get over those hurdles way in the beginning before we get down the line, and then we have to jump through a lot of hurdles trying to get you to the finish line. Now, that's not to say that we won't jump over those hurdles, because we do.
Yes.
We jump over the hurdles.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
And we do our best to get you to the finish line. So
we do a pretty darn good job of that.
I think we do.
We do. Yes.
I think we do. Teamwork. Teamwork makes the dream work,
hello.
right? There's a lot of times realtors and loan officers aren't really talking and aren't really, so a realtor may not know what the loan officer knows, and the loan officer may not know what the realtor knows. So I'm glad, when I work with Jackie, we kind of know each other, and we kind of know, what to look for, questions to ask, and when a problem comes, we work together with the client to resolve the issue.
Right. And the client gives Barbara permission to share that information with me. That's the most important thing also.
We ask for permission to share the information. And things just like the appraisal. Like, I cannot give it to Jackie unless you've given me permission. Send it to you first, or you send it to Jackie.
As the client, because
the client.
they paid for it, and that belongs to them.
You paid for it, it belongs to you, absolutely. So in the pre-approval process, I'll collect all those docs, and I'll initially look at those docs, and I'll go into my origination system, we call it, or loan origination system. And there's several systems out there. The one that I use that we talked about before is Octane, and Octane is only with Cardinal Financial. Cardinal Department created Octane, and they created Octane with all the other loan originating systems in mind. So Octane just shoots out a whole lot of stuff. You input it, they give you a whole lot of stuff. And I love using this Octane. I mean, it's amazing, because I've used several of the other systems in other companies that I've worked with, and I really do love Octane and how Octane works. So I'll put all that information into the loan origination system. And then once I do that, at that point, I get your permission to pull your credit. And once I pull your credit and your credit is downloaded, it then gives me all the debt, the monthly debt that you have. Now, a lot of times, just so you understand, the monthly debt that we're looking at are just the monthly debt that's on your credit report. We're not looking at your cell phone bill. We're not looking at your cable bill. We're not including any of that.
Yeah, utilities,
that's not included in your debt. Sometimes a lot of people think that's included in their debt or ratios, which I'll discuss a little bit more later. But it gives me all your monthly payments. Also, it doesn't matter what the bill may be. I'm only interested in the monthly payment.
Okay.
Right?
All right.
So if you have a credit card and it's $3,000, I'm not concerned that it's $3,000. I just want to see what that monthly payment is. So if for some reason your monthly payment is $75 or $100, that's what's included into your debt. It's not so much that the $3,000 is included in your debt. It's the monthly payment that I'm looking at, because we take the monthly payment and your income, and that's how we figure out how much home that you can afford. So once I get all that information and I'm analyzing all that information, and I see, your credit is good and or fair or whatever your credit is, as long as I know I got a loan program for you. How about that?
Hello.
How about that?
The program for them. That's right.
If I got a loan program for you, you're good. You're good. Like we took in some of the earlier shows, right? Don't let all of that define you. right? Because sometimes bad things happen to good people.
That's
We've
right.
consistently said that. So, if you think that you can't own a home right now, the best thing to do is to get out there and get your feet wet.
Yes,
right?
That's right. That's right. To know what's down the road so you can prepare for
To
it.
know what's down the road.
Hello.
And for me, the best thing for you to do is pull your own credit first. Look at what's on your credit report first. Okay? Because you might be surprised. And then even pull your scores. You don't have to pull your scores, but if you look at your credit, you could tell whether you have collections, judgments, negative, late. You'll be able to kind of look at your credit report and kind of gear, well, am I ready for a home? Or how can I pay this off? Or how can I do this? And then once you do that, then seek out a loan officer and ask them to help you or to look at it and to see if you're home buyer ready.
Yes.
And that's something that I will do. So once I get all that information and everything looks good and I know that I got a loan program for you, then what I do is I run you, and we talked about it before. I know I'm going to keep going back saying we talked about it, the automatic underwriting system. So I'll run it through the automatic underwriting system, and that will give me an approval, a risk, or no.
Ooh, I know. Okay.
Don't get many of those because I kind of know when I'm
Yes,
looking at it
that's right.
prior to me even putting that in. And that's not to say that there's some things that we can do to get you to the approval part of it. So once I get the approval, and the reason why I do that, because like I said, it's automatic underwriting system. So once I get that approval, it's a go. It is a go. I'm giving you your pre-approval letter. I'm giving it to Jackie, and you're going shopping for a home.
Hello.
You're making that dream a reality at that
Yes,
point. Yes. So, if there's some things on it, or I get a risk, I kind of go back, I look at it, I call you, I kind of figure out how can we mitigate this. Maybe your scores need to be a little bit higher. Maybe I need to stick you in another loan program. There's a lot of different things that we can do to try to mitigate this, to try to get you to approval. It could be that I put you in for too much house. Because one thing I do try to do, I want people to stay within their means. Now, that's not to say that you can stretch yourself a little bit. You can, but you have to be comfortable with what your mortgage is going to be every month. Because if you're renting right now and you go out and you get a mortgage, and if your mortgage is going to be more than what your rent is, you have to make sure that you're going to be comfortable with that. So that's the reason why we have ratios, debt to income ratios. So I look at the ratios and see how far I can stretch you in that ratio to keep you comfortable. Now, for a lot of programs, especially on the conventional side, there's certain ratios. You can't go over them, and that's it. But when you start to get into the government loans, they give you a little bit more leeway.
Okay.
Like the
All
FHA
right.
loans, the VA loans. USDA give you a little bit more leeway than the conventional. So depending on what it is that you're trying to do, the area that you're trying to live in, and see, I get all this information up front because I need to know this so I know how to put your file in and know what to look for.
Yes.
Right?
That's right.
So at that point, once I get all that information and I give the pre-approval, I give that pre-approval back to Jackie and you, and then you guys, you go shopping, and then you look for a home.
Yes.
Okay? And that's the whole fun part
It
for
is.
Jackie.
It truly is.
And Jackie's going over that process with you, what happens when you're looking for a home, correct? So once you find the home, that's when Jackie puts the contract on that home, then it's a go with me again. So once I give you the pre-approval process, I pass you the pre-approval, document. I pass you on to Jackie, and then I'm done until you and Jackie come back and you say we have a ratified contract.
Well, actually, we do something a little before that. Once we find a home, sometimes
Okay.
we want
Yes.
it to be tailored to that specific
That's
home.
true.
And so Barbara will check out the taxes. I actually send her the listing. So she'll check out the taxes to make sure that they fit within the parameter that she
Of
provided
that home.
of
That's
that
true.
particular home.
That's true.
And she looks at a lot of different things, but I always send her the listing so that she knows exactly what that specific
What it is that you're
home
looking at.
is.
Because a
Yes.
lot of lenders don't do that. They give
That's
you the
right.
pre-approval,
That's right.
and you just fit within that
That's right.
parameter of that pre-approval.
Exactly.
But what Jackie will do, and Jackie will send me the actual listing, then I'll take that listing and I'll look and see if there's homeowners association fees.
That's right.
I'll see how much the taxes are. They're not always accurate, but they're close. They're the previous year's taxes, and I'll take those taxes. And if there's any other type of fees, so that I can add it into your file and then see if I can get another automatic approval.
Yes. Very
So, yeah,
important piece.
we do
Very
that. We
important
do
piece.
that.
Yes.
So I guess it's really not true that I'm done with you until you get the contract. I guess I had to really think about that. I'm dealing with you on and on
That's
and
right.
on
Yes, she
until
is.
you find the house
That's right.
that fits you and fits your family's needs. So once you find that house and it fits your needs and we already have the approval, Jackie then does what she does. She gets that ratified contract, and then that contract is given to me.
Immediately.
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 I always like the contracts immediately
Yes.
because without the contract, I cannot order things like appraisal. I can't start initiating your title work. So once I have the contract, I then go into a process. I then have to submit all the information from that contract into the loan origination system. And here is where the fun begins,
Hello.
right?
Yes.
The fun begins now because you thought you've given me everything I've needed. But I just asked for certain documentation just to get you the pre-approval process. Once we get the contract, now there's other things in the system, in the loan originating system, that I need to make sure that we have in order to get it over to processing.
That's
Okay,
right.
so
That's
there's
right.
actually like 4 stages that I'm going to be asking you for a documentation, and it'll be the pre-approval, it'll be when I'm packaging the loan, it'll be through underwriting, and it may be in through to closing. So you're going to be consistently giving me or my processor documents so that we can get you through this process.
I'm so glad you said that, Barbara. I am so glad you said that, because how many times have I heard, well, I thought I was done. Well, no, you're not done until you're done.
You're not done until you're
That's
sitting
right.
at the table getting ready to sign.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
You're
Truly,
not done until
truly.
then.
That's right.
So even up to the day that before you sign, see what happens is sometimes the documents do what's called timeout. Okay, documents only last for maybe 30 days. So if 30 days happen and it's right before closing, I'm going to ask you for that document again, just so we can put it in the system, just so we can get you to closing. So we have more information coming to you. That was the pre-approval process. When we come back,
We will continue.
got to pay the bills, the
Hello.
sponsors, right? We got to pay the bills. When we come back from our sponsor, we're going to continue on with you. So please, just stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Yes.
It is key that you mind your mental health.
Hey guys, how's everyone doing this week? Hi.
Use the 5 keys to mental movement.
This week has been a really monumental week for me. I realized that I was not being myself.
Reaching out.
The positive attitude person self, like you guys know me to be. I was
Staying
listening to
upbeat.
teaching and give back to that happy, cheery self you guys of me.
This week's been kind of
Being
stressful,
creative.
all of the workload that we have on online learning. So I've been trying to use different platforms and different websites to help ease my mind and ease my stress.
And what about you, Margaret?
Well, you guys know me. I just love to work with others and serve them.
Serving others.
Realize that when I serve others, my mind is off of myself.
That's right. And don't forget, self-care is key.
Self-care.
All right. So see you guys next week.
Right.
Bye.
Your mind matters.
Hello, and welcome back to Mortgage Financing and Homebuyer Ready. We have just been talking about the mortgage process.
Yes.
And Barbara has covered the pre-approval process and just a little bit of detail about that.
Yes.
And how that works up to me helping the client to get a contract.
Yes.
And now we're going to continue with that information, right, Barbara?
Yes, we're going to continue. Now we move on to we have the contract, and now what I'm going to do now, I have to do what's called your loan setup. I have to go into the originating system, and like I told you, the system that I use is called Octane. But
love that Octane.
we love that Octane. It shoots out everything, right? But by the end, most of you were going, Octane done sent me another email. But Octane keeps you up to date.
Hello.
Whenever we touch your file, Octane shoots out something to you. It shoots out something to me.
Okay.
Whenever we touch your file. And a lot of times you're calling me going, am I supposed to go in and sign something? Is there something that I need to do? But listen, I tell you right up front, I said, look, Octane is going to notify. You can go into your loan originating system, and I need to go over that with you. You can go into your loan originating system at any time, and you can see what's going on. But not all the times you have to sign something. Even though Octane may say we're needing a signature, it's not all the time you need a signature. So a lot of times up front, what I would say to you, I will text you or email you when you definitely have to go into Octane and sign a document for me. So that helps you not having to get into that originating system every time you see an email.
Yes.
Because even if I upload a document, Octane's going to shoot out something. If a date changes, Octane's going to shoot out something. So I don't want you scratching your head and running around and going into, into the portal. We call it the loan origination portal. So what happens is I do the loan setup, and I kind of have to package your loan. So I have the approval, I have the packaging, I have to put the contract into the loan originating system. And it takes me probably about a good hour and 15 minutes or so to make sure that I get everything in there, because I'm putting all your information in there now, and I'm getting ready to put information in there that sends you out all these disclosures that you have to sign. So me putting that information in there correctly, helps so that we don't have to go back and change anything. And I will admit, there's been a time that I've forgotten a junior or two or a third or two.
Well, was that because you weren't told that, or you just
Either or.
Okay, either or, yeah. Because sometimes we're not told.
Yeah, it's important, and we're getting daddy's information, or we getting the little boy's information, So if it's not on the ID, a lot of times, but then when you go and file for credit and you're putting a junior or the third on it, that changes some things a little bit. So we have to make sure that the documentation is correct. Because when you get to closing, and your ID has to match what's on all your documents. Okay, Miss, Mrs., this, that, hyphenated name, whatever. It has to match. So we try to make sure that all that information is corrected before I send the disclosures out to you. Because what I don't want to do is have to re-disclose something. Because as a mortgage professional, I'm under compliance. There's a lot of laws out there that I have to make sure that I'm staying compliant to. And so therefore, I don't want to have to make me do more work so that you do more work. So it takes me about an hour and 15 minutes or so to get your loan set up and get ready to send over to our processing people. Now, what a processor is, I'm a loan originator, mortgage consultant, loan officer, whatever name that you heard. I find the money. That's who I am.
Hello.
So whatever name you want to use is fine, but I find the money.
So they're all interchangeable.
They're all interchangeable.
Yes.
But once I've done my part, and I'm saying my part, quote unquote, I need you to understand that, my part, quote unquote. Once I've done my part, I then pass you over to what's called a processor. And a processor is exactly how it sounds. They process your loan. They take over the loan. They look at the loan. They make sure I've done my part correctly. They are setting and packaging your loan up, getting ready to send to the underwriter. If they need more documents, they will email you. requesting more documents. If they look at your credit report and there's something on your credit report that maybe shows a 30-day late on something, they may ask you a question about it. There's something called credit inquiries on your credit report.
Oh my gosh, credit inquiries. Oh,
credit inquiries. And a lot of people do that. Whenever you apply for
That's
credit
right. That's
or you apply for something and you get a hard pull on your credit report, they show up as credit inquiries. So in the mortgage world, we have to answer for all of those. So we have to have a letter about that credit inquiry. So if it was in the last 90 days, we have to find out why you asked for that credit. If that creditor is on your credit report, were you denied credit, or it just did not result in any new credit? So we're going to have to find all that out. Now,
can we come back to that when you're done with this little part? Because I have something I'd like to say about the credit
go
inquiry.
ahead. Let's do it now.
You sure?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sure, positive.
So one of the things that I just thought about, Barbara, is there are clients where we say to them, you cannot open anything. You have to keep your financial status just as it is right now.
Yes.
And that's really important for them to know that.
It's really important.
Yeah, and why is that so important? I guess it's based on what you just said about the inquiry, for one thing.
Absolutely, because right before you go to closing, mortgage companies do, or underwriters do, what's called a soft pull. It doesn't result into an inquiry, but it's a soft pull to see if you went out and extended yourself and got more credit. Now, if you have done something like that and we're right to closing, and that's going to change your ratios, it's going to change or reconfigure your loan, guess what? We're right back to the beginning, at the beginning of the table. You're not going to close. So that's the reason why we tell people up front, don't do anything.
That's right.
Don't do anything.
Nothing.
I've had people ask me, well, can I just go ahead and I want to start getting my furniture. I want to go and I want to get a store credit card for my furniture. No, do not do that. You should have done that before you came to me. Then it would already show up on your credit report, but it would show up as a zero balance, so it would not have affected you. But you go get a store credit card for furniture and you're buying $1,000, $2,000, worth of furniture, and it shows up on your credit report as $50 or $75 a month. That may be something that can make or break you for the amount of house that you're purchasing.
That's right. That's right. True story, Barbara. Now, this didn't happen with me, but someone that I know was the seller of this property that this happened with. This property had been on the market for 1 year. It was a different type of property. Been on the market for 1 year, found a buyer. Everything was going smoothly until it was time to close. Literally, the soft pull was done the evening before closing, and it was discovered at the table that morning that the buyer paid her child's tuition.
Oh, wow.
Thinking that it wasn't going to show because it was too close to closing. Guess what? It showed closing was shut down right there. Have you ever heard of such, Barbara?
Of course. Maybe not paying tuition.
Yes.
But I've seen cars.
Yes, cars. Yes, and that's another story. Exactly. And people always think that it's not going to show up. I guess in the old days, before we did everything electronically, that would have been true.
Right.
But now, as soon as it hits, you do it, it hits, and it shows up.
And it shows up.
So there's nothing you can hide, as Barbara's been trying to say pretty much this whole show. You cannot hide it.
There's nothing that you can hide. Even if you say, well, I'm just going to see if I'm going to get that store credit card, before I close, that inquiry is going to show up. And then I got to come back and I got to ask you for documentation. And we might have to do what's called a credit supplement to make sure that you didn't open new credit. I mean, there's a whole lot of things that go into that. So we try to tell you at the beginning, don't do anything. And another important thing, too, what you don't do, which I've had a couple of clients, they give bank statements. And that was one of the things I forgot to say at the beginning, the pre-approval process. I look at your bank statements to see, where your money, well, I said your asset statements, same thing, bank statements, right? Your bank statements. If you have a certain amount of money in your bank statement and you tell me this is going to be used towards my down payment and or closing, and you think, well, I'm going to transfer it over here to this other bank because this is the bank I really want to use over here. And you go and transfer that money over to the other bank account, and then close to closing, I'm going to ask you for a transaction report, meaning you're going to go to your bank or go online, for those of you that know how to do it, create a transaction report from the last banking date to the day before closing, and look at all of your transaction history. If I see that money been transferred to another account, documentation,
Which to me says extended contract, extended contract, extended contract.
There
That's
you
what
go.
that means to me.
That's what that
We
means.
may not close on that day because now something else has been thrown into the timeline that was not
the
expected.
timeline. You don't mess with her
Hello?
timeline. Don't mess with her timeline.
Okay.
I got a timeline the other day. Don't mess with her. Wait a minute. And her timeline made me remember something. I texted her. I said, oh, Jackie, I forgot to do that.
Yes,
That
was
timeline.
So funny. That was so funny.
Thank you for her timeline. Don't mess with her timeline. But yes, that can really
That's right.
mess up things.
It can.
You know, and I recently had somebody do, they was transferring their money all over the place. And then what happened? I got to go get 2 months of every bank account this money is flying all over the place in, which comes to find out, I don't know what the person used the money on, right? But he figured I gave them the bank statement. The money was right there. They're not going to ask for it again. So then the next bank statement I get, there's no money. Don't do that. Don't do that. And then they were talking about, well, I'm going to go ahead and use my 401k. We're closing next week. How are you going to use your 401k? That takes time.
That's right.
The point I'm making here is you have to tell me up front what it is that you're doing, what you're trying to do. And so when we have that conversation of where the money's coming, where the money's sitting,
She's not just asking you just, I guess, to be nosy.
right.
It has a purpose. It has a purpose in the entire process.
Yes.
It's
you just have to
important.
keep it there.
That's right.
Don't move it. Don't pre-think it. And I love the clients that call me and go, Barbara, I need to do such and such and such. I just want to know, am I able to do?
Yes.
I love.
Yes, she does.
Love
That's what
those
she
clients that
wants.
do that. And I'm able to say, oh, I'm so glad you called me. I'm so glad you asked me. Okay, do it this way or don't do it at all. So a lot of times, if you're not sure, it's best to ask your loan officer.
It is.
And if you're not comfortable with your loan officer, or your loan officer is somebody you can't really get to readily, ask your real estate agent. Because guess what? Your real estate agent is going to try to get to that loan officer.
Hello, as quickly as I can.
Right. Because they don't want to mess up the deal
No,
either.
that's right.
They don't want to mess up the deal either. So it just all depends, the relationship that you have with your mortgage consultant, loan officer, and your realtor. It just depends on that relationship. So you'll feel comfortable to be able to ask them the questions that's needed to ask. And sometimes you have questions that you don't feel comfortable asking. And I'm talking about financial questions or financial situational questions. You know what I mean by situational? Something's happening or something's going to happen, but you're in the loan process. And sometimes you may not feel comfortable and you just figure, you know what, I'm just going to dodge this bullet and I'm just going to do what I think is right. Don't do that. Feel comfortable. Well, with me, you can feel
Yes,
comfortable
that's right.
and have, and I'm speaking to about a lot of us, but not all of us. You can feel comfortable in coming and asking us, is this okay to do at this time because of X, Y, and Z? And if that's the case, I can talk you through it, work through it with you, and say, this is how we're going to handle it. And another good thing that I love working with the people that I do work with is that my processors, I could go to my processors because they know much more than I do. They know that end of processing and the underwriting. And I can go to my processors and I can say, hey, look, this is the situation. How do we handle this so the underwriter will say this is okay?
Let me ask you something, Barbara. Are you able to do that because you have in-house processors, or is that something that would happen
Jackie
no matter
always trying to throw.
what?
You know what? She always trying to throw something in there. You hear her, right? But yes, that is true. I worked with a company. Remember that other company I worked with,
Yes.
and they had third-party processors, right? Contracted processors. And I was dying. They answered you when they wanted to answer you, trying to get a hold of them because they're working for several different companies. Because they're a company themselves, they're a third-party processor. But the company I work with, we have processors in-house.
Hello, and it makes all the difference in the world. I was with her with that other company.
Yes.
And oh my gosh, I remember some nightmarish type situations.
Nightmares. It was nightmares. I was like, oh no, I can't put my clients through this. And the company I'm working with now, even Jackie calls my processors. Jackie emails my processors now. Look, Barbara's out of town. I need to know.
In case of emergency.
In case of
definitely
emergency.
do that, yes.
And they know Jackie too. They know. They're a couple realtors. But, and the thing about it is they answer her. They'll take her calls. They respond. So I love working with the people that I work with. And that is what's so important to me, that I have communication.
Yes.
Because when I don't have communication, I can't help my clients.
That's right. That's right. It's so important. So as it is in most things in life,
Yes.
Communication is the key.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you have a situation and you give it to me and I can't talk you through it or I can't help you, I go to my processor. I say, look, this is what's going on. How do we work this out? How do we do this? And me and the processor talk it through. And then I come back to you and I say, this is how we're going to do this to help you with your situation. So you want to make sure you find somebody that you're comfortable with, because when you get to that second stage of packaging that loan and processing and getting that loan file underwritten, you want to make sure that you're with a loan officer and a processor that's going to work for you. And another thing I wanted to point out too, I've worked with some others in the past, and someone gave me a question, the person, and they said to me, why are you getting all involved in that? You just hand the loan off and go on to your next one. You remember that?
Yes.
And I said, why aren't you involved in that? Why do you not know what your clients are doing and what's going on with your clients' files? I'm very active with my files.
Yes, she is. Yes, she is. As I said, hands on.
Very active with my file, because you know what? I want my files to close. And then they used to complain, well, how'd your file get closed and mine didn't? You want to know why? Because I understand loan origination, I understand processing, I understand underwriting, I understand closing, because if you don't know your product, how are you going to help to get anybody through to the end?
That's right.
And I thought that was just amazing.
Yes.
And they wanted me to come work for them. You don't know your job. How am I going to work for you?
Oh gosh,
that was fun. Okay,
That was
I'm
funny.
digressing.
That
I'm
was
digressing.
funny. That was funny. But one thing I do like to say, Barbara, is that when I send out the offer, I always if I'm working with the buyer, I let the listing agent know that Cardinal Financial has in-house
Yes, he does.
processing.
Yep.
And I think that makes a big
And we
difference.
underwrite our own loans.
And underwrite their own
We
loans.
underwrite our own
Yes,
loans. Yes.
yes.
I have contact to the
Huge.
underwriters too. I can send them notes. They respond back. I can do that too. But what I don't do, I don't overstep my boundaries. I go to my processors because they're just that good. So I don't have to do that. Right? So I know we went off on a tangent on this, but it's good to know that, certain areas when you're trying to buy a home, that you have somebody that knows these steps, that knows what they're doing, so that they can get you to the finish line. That's the most important thing, is you getting to the finish line. And you want to be able to reach out to your loan officer when you need your loan officer to ask questions and to make sure and feel comfortable with them, that if that sunny day scenario pops up, they can help you, non-sunny day pop up, that they can get you back on track to a sunny day scenario. And a sunny day scenario is actually closing on the home.
Hello.
Correct?
And on time.
And on time. And on time. Now, do things happen?
Yes.
Well, those are whole other stories, but
Yes.
Jackie and I will probably talk through those
That's
with
right.
you, because we're trying to give you a little bit of everything. Sometimes we get off track, but even getting off track, you're able to kind of understand some of the things that happen. So I have more to discuss. I have more for you. We're getting ready to take another commercial break. And when we come back from that commercial break, I'm going to continue with the processing of your mortgage. Stay tuned.
What? Who are we? We are women. Beautiful, accomplished, and divine. That's right. Badass us. Yeah. Who are we? We are gentlemen. Our brothers, accomplished and determined. Yet, as society see us, we must still change the narrative. Yeah, that's right. Who are we? The black community. Remember us? We are accomplished. We are determined. We are divine. We are of greatness. That's right. The black community. Badass us. Who are we? That's right. Who am I? I am the person committed to building the next community movement. What about you?
Okay, welcome back to Mortgage Financing and Homebuyer Ready. We were just having an excellent discussion
Yes.
on all of the wonderful things that Cardinal Financial brings to the
Am
table.
I plugging Cardinal?
Yes, well, Cardinal Financial, what Barbara brings to the table as the excellent loan officer that she is,
Oh, thank
but
you,
the
Jackie.
company that you work for,
Yes,
Barbara, it's
yes.
wonderful.
The
It
company
really is.
that I work for. Yes, I'm very happy to have found. I've been through a couple companies because I need a company that meets me.
Yes.
Right, and meets my needs, that knows what I'm trying to do for you. So as long as they can meet my needs, that help me get you to the finish line, I'm okay.
That's
so I'm
right,
very
that's
happy
right.
with this company, and I've been here a couple years
Yes,
now.
you have. And that last company before that, there were some issues going on there. But you know what? You found the right match.
That's right. That's
and
right.
that's what's most important.
That's
you
what's
found
most
the
important.
Right match
That's what's most
to help your
important.
clients.
Yes, because that's what it's
Yes.
all about, is
Hello?
helping you reach your goals and that dream of owning your own home when you think you can't own your own home.
So important. So important.
That just, I got chills right now.
Hello.
That just gets me excited. It just warms me all over, Jackie.
Yes, it
You know,
does, it
when people
does.
think that they can't do something, and they can.
And something that we consider the American dream.
Yeah.
So if you can't have the American dream, you know, you may not feel so good about
That's
that.
right. That's right.
But being able to reach that American dream,
Yes.
and to know that Barbara and I have a hand in that, that warms both our hearts.
Yes, yes, and I just love it. So we're gonna go ahead and we'll move on. So we talked about the pre-approval. We talked about packaging the loan.
That's right.
And so once I've done all that I can and I've pushed it on to the processor, and the processor has looked through everything, then what happens is they go ahead. Well, first, Jackie will do a home inspection.
Oh, yes. Oh,
She will do a
yes.
home inspection. So normally, right before we order appraisal, because there are costs that you have to pay up front, and the appraisal is one of them. So you pay your appraisal front, but before we order the appraisal, Jackie's already, and she talked about that during her
I
process,
did.
she's already scheduled the inspection. It's normally like one day after the contract's ratified, right?
Sometimes maybe 3 days, 3
Okay.
to 4 days at the most. At the most.
At the most.
Yes.
Now,
Because
I've
that's
set
so
everything up on
important.
my end. I've passed it on, but I'm not going to have the appraisal ordered until Jackie's inspection has been done and the report is back and everybody is fine with the report.
Yes, that's right. That's
Okay.
right. Whether the seller will make repairs or not make repairs, the most important thing is that my client knows what to expect.
What's going on with the house,
That's
if it's
right.
anything major, cosmetic, or
Yes.
whatever. So once Jackie gives me the okay, then my processor then will reach out to you, because one thing I don't do now, you can put it in the system, or maybe loan officers take this or whatever. One thing I do, I don't take people's credit card information. That's just a rule of thumb for me. I just don't like taking your credit card information. So my processor will call you to get a credit card in order to initiate the appraisal.
Okay.
Right, and that's just a rule of thumb. I don't like that have that information because I'm not working right there in the office. I work remotely, and there's laws. Getting rid of paper. I have a shredder and all of that, but I don't work with a lot of paper, and I don't take that type of information. Just so you understand that. And so the processor will go ahead and order the appraisal after we've gotten the okay that the inspection is okay. And by that time,
I have a question for you. The appraisal cost.
Appraisal costs can vary depending on what type of home you're buying. Residential can be 1 unit to 4 units. Our appraisals, they're usually around $565. And then if you're getting a 2 unit, 3 unit, 4 unit, they're a little bit more expensive than that. So it just matters how many units that you're getting, but ours is around between $535 and $565 for the appraisal. So, and appraisals are third-party companies. They're not, they're not companies of Cardinal Financial. After 2008, with whatever happened, the downturn with the economy. Remember when Barack Obama? You may not remember, but when he put into law and he put the new organization into Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, there are a lot of guidelines and a lot of laws that lenders and realtors.
Yes.
Cannot have association with appraisals anymore. And you already know about that, so I don't need to talk about why. Just think about it. But anyway, so the appraisal company is a third-party appraisal. I never know who the appraiser is going to be. I have no clue of their name. I have no clue what company they work for. I have no idea of who the appraiser is going to be, and Jackie doesn't either. So it's not until the appraisal is ordered. Only thing I do is I get an email that says the appraisal has been ordered and a vendor has accepted it. And then
so that's the appraisal management company.
The appraisal management company, yes.
With.
And it'll say that the appraisal has been accepted, and then a vendor has accepted it. And they don't tell us who the vendor is. And so it's, at that point, it's up to the appraisal company then to reach out to the seller's agent to gain access in order to do that appraisal. And then the only thing we'll get back is a date that the appraisal is going to be done and a date that the appraisal package will be delivered back to us. So that's the only information that I ever receive. So
and one thing I'd like to also add, Barbara, is that the contracts that I generally write will say that an appraisal is due around the 21st day. That's usually what the contract says. But Barbara does not wait for that.
No.
She gets that appraisal ordered in the very beginning of the process, and oftentimes it comes in way in advance.
Yes.
Now, we did have some issues, I guess, this summer, maybe when
because
everything
of
was...
COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
COVID issues.
And just the increase in the market. But generally, it always comes back early, and that's a good thing.
It comes back early.
Yes.
And the reason why we want the appraisal to come back early, because we don't want to get way down in your loan and a lot of changes are happening, because we want to see what the value of the house is, right? Because the negotiation happened between the two realtors on how much you're going to pay for this house, how much you're going to give for this house. So what happens if your appraisal comes back less? Well, then Jackie has to go back in. I stop, and Jackie goes back into negotiation with the seller's realtor to see if they're going to sell it for that appraised value. And normally it happens.
It does.
The only time it really doesn't happen, I just had one happen the other day, is investment property. The investment appraisal came back much less than what the seller was selling it for, and the seller said, no, I can't sell it for that, so they decided to keep it. But realistically, in the residential form of it, the appraisal usually comes back most of the time within value. It'll come back, and then your contract actually states what happens if the appraisal doesn't come back a certain amount, but all of that's done up front in the contract, so the seller and the buyer is normally aware of everything, right?
That's right.
So we kind of know what's going to happen with the appraisal when the appraisal comes back. And so it's usually like 24 hours after that if the negotiation has to be done is finished and we got the amended contract. Okay. Now, if the appraisal comes back higher, too bad. You walk in with equity. It's only when the appraisal comes back lower that negotiations,
That's
right,
right,
Jackie?
that's right,
Negotiate.
that's
But if
right.
it comes back higher, hey, Jackie singing and happy dance, you
That's
walking in with
right.
equity. Everybody likes to hear that. Oh my goodness. Everybody likes to say, oh, yeah, I got equity, I'm walking in with equity. And that's what you want. You want to walk in with equity. So the appraisal is ordered. And then during that time, Jackie has already reached out to the title company. So
Oh, yes.
the buyer
Yes.
the buyer is the one that picks the title company, not the seller. The buyer picks the
However,
title
I
company.
do have to say
Sometimes
that
it's-
sometimes
yeah, it depends.
the listing even will say that seller prefers, and they will note a specific title company. So I have to say to my buyer,
Why do they do
yes, that is
Yes.
your preference, your
Yes.
choice rather. I didn't mean to say preference, your choice to choose one. However, there may be an advantage to choosing the one that the seller prefers. So
What's that advantage?
well, the advantage is sometimes, when you're trying to get a contract, you're submitting an offer, and when you're trying to get a contract, anything that you're able to do that I guess the seller would see as an advantage on their side, that may give you a few points to get that contract.
Yep, that
Yeah.
you're agreeing to
Yes.
use that seller's,
That's right.
the title
That's
company,
right.
right? And one thing I'll say with Jackie, that if that is the case, Jackie checks out the title company.
Yes.
She checks it out to make sure, that everything is good with that title
That's
company, and she'll say, she'll say to the client, they're fairly good. It's okay. If you choose to do that, we can do that, and that may give us a leg up on trying to gain this contract.
Yes.
So a couple things go into all of this. So once we figure out definitely who the title company is going to be, then my processor then submits what's called an order, a title order. And that is submitted to the title company. And what the title company is doing is that they're going out and they're checking all the records.
Yes.
They're looking for liens. They're making sure the title's free and clear.
Exactly what the taxes are. For
Exactly
that
what the
current year.
taxes are. The county, state taxes. And then once they
Oh, let me say something else.
Uh-huh.
They're also, which I didn't always know this, they're also looking at the buyer to make sure that the buyer doesn't have any issues.
That's
because
true.
I had a contract. Actually, my client got the contract. They were number 2 in line, if you will. Somebody
Yes.
else got the contract. It just so happened that there was something going on, and they had to end that particular contract, and my client was called, or I was called for my client, and my client was then accepted. That offer was then accepted. So they actually checked both sides.
Well, they're looking at the buyer to see if earlier on
Yes.
they
If
had
there's
anything
issues.
going on
That's
with any
right.
issues with a home.
That's right.
Right?
That's
A lien on a
Well,
home.
a home, or sometimes it could be some other type
Criminal
of lien.
or things like
some
that.
Things like that.
I didn't know
And
the
they-
criminal,
well,
but I
criminal, I'm
knew
not going to
that
say the word
tax
criminal because
liens
this wasn't criminal. This was some type of situation where there was a huge amount of money that was owed and it hadn't been paid. So I don't think that's considered criminal.
No, that's not criminal, but it's money you
came
owe.
up.
Yes. And the reason being for that, you said that, the reason being for that is because if there is debt out there that you owe, you're buying a house and it's that type of debt that you owe, what the mortgage company wants to know is when you get this house, is that debt going to be attached to this house? Because see, now those creditors or debtors can come after your property. So that
that's
puts the mortgage company at
mortgage
risk.
company, yes,
Yes,
yes.
it puts the mortgage
So
company
do
at
they
risk.
want to have that liability?
Do they want to have that liability? So if the title company can't clear that, because what they do is they go and try to clear that to make sure, request documentation from you, request things, look into it, and make sure that it is actually your debt, because they have to clear that title before they give that title to us. Right?
Yes.
So, I mean, it's a lot of good things that they do, and we're happy about that because we don't want you to get into any type of situation, whether it's the seller, or we don't want you to have any type of situation down the line, and we want to get you to closing. And my goodness, Jackie, the time just seems to fly. But I think we're getting ready to take another break. We're going to come back with some final remarks.
Actually, you know what? This is not a break time, Barbara.
This is the
not
end?
a break time.
Are we done? I'm not done yet. Okay.
You know what? I think we will
We're
have
done.
another show.
I gotta finish up next show.
Yes.
I got to finish up next show. So I guess we can say to you, thank you for joining us again We're so happy that you joined us for. We do this every week. It goes so
okay.
fast. It goes so
does,
fast.
it does.
Thank you for coming to Mortgage Financing and Homebuyer Ready. And we love working with you. We want to work with you. And we want to make your dreams a reality.
Yes.
And we also want you to understand your power to purchase. Thank you for coming again. And
And the most important part about that is not only understanding your power to purchase, but to make sure that you are home buyer ready.
make sure that you're home buyer ready.
Yes.
Okay. So this is the end of our show, and we will see you next week.
Bye.